All right, Seth, how
Leo,
are you?
hello. All right, man. How are you doing over there? You're like, how many days in? We are
15 days in.
15 days in to
Hard to imagine.
yeah. How's it
I mean, it
going?
looks like a million years ago, honestly. And a part of you wants to think it's a dream that happened somewhere in, some dark dream that happened. But then you look
Can
in the
you go to
picture.
sleep at night normally, or there's always like a feeling like,
I personally, I sleep pretty well, but I can tell you that there's insecurity, there's fear. I mean, all around. There's like, especially the women here, wives, mothers, some women whose husbands are were drafted, and in general, this we live in the center of Israel, so the rockets are not the biggest issue. It's mainly that sense of insecurity, like can they get to us? Can they come here? That's the feeling people have, and
and
we
if you're
get
living in the north and the south, then
that's a different type of fear. Now they're being evacuated. There's over 100,000 people that's been evacuated in the last couple of weeks from the north and the south. 115,000, I think. The number is 114,318. I know because I took a video of our friend who's a member of parliament yesterday, and it cost the country $200 million every week. So
to do what?
just to take care of them. That there's people that have been evacuated from dozens of towns and villages in the north and the south. So you have to put them up somewhere. They're like in hostels, hotels, foster kibbutzes, families, that sort of thing. Basically, you know they're not home. So it really feel like the ring is getting, you know, the noose is
Yeah.
tight.
So I think right away when things happen, when we spoke last week, we're still kind of reeling. There's shock. You're still um, kind of in a reaction mode. Now it's like settled into the mind, and everyone's had time to think more about it and see a lot of videos. Probably anyone who's paying attention has seen so many different videos. And what it turns out is there's so many narratives, there's so many videos from different sides. It's like at first it seemed obvious to us. Oh, well, Hamas attacked civilians, right? That was the narrative. And now all of a sudden there's like all of these other things going on where people who we didn't think, like people who were on college campuses, protesting for their pronouns or protesting against microaggressions, now are supporting an organization that we know raped and murdered people. So, like, so many, like, at first we like clumped it into two groups. Okay, these ones attacked these ones. But now, like, like, also we saw in the capital of the US, there was Jews supporting um, the, the other
Yeah.
side. So there's all these like splits happening now, and all like these different um, discernments about what's happening and and the narrative is not as clear anymore.
No, in many ways, it is a war of narratives. I mean, it has been in the last decade. That's what's been emerging: a war of narratives, a media war. That's what the Palestinians have been waging that war for a long time. Israel has been late into that game. We're still riding the waves of favoritism from the 6 Day War, and then going into the 80s, the beginning of the resistance of the Palestinians were still okay, and Arab Palestinian or Arab terrorists blowing up airplanes, it was okay. There was still kind of, it was us and them, and it was mostly us. It was 9/11, which again kind of brought up this, whoa, maybe Muslims are not all good, or maybe they're all bad, or all those discussions, right, that came up. And now, in the last couple of decades, Israel has been really losing this war. You see it, major media outlets turning against us, major media outlets already making judgment calls on reports from the ground, like with the hospital thing, right? The hospital gets blown up. The New York Times. I'm seeing it less than 2 hours after it happened. I'm sitting here. I'm seeing like New York Times. Israel bombs hospital, hundreds dead. I'm like, dude, how do you know? You were there? What's the story? Oh, and they're like, oh, we're sorry, we have to retract it. CNN has to retract it. It's like people who
Damage is done by that
the
point.
damage is done. People don't realize, and I'm not just saying damage against Israel. I'm saying damage in general. You're harming people's psyche. People live in constant assault. Even there was this Arab guy in Ramallah. There was a CNN reporter. She was reporting, and the guy started to shout at her, you're the media of the genocide media. F CNN and F the." He was like annoyed by the fact that all they do is just this constant negative influence. And it's like, geez, we know we are the influence of the environment. We know about the influence of the environment. We know we are the product of these waves, but yet we keep feeding ourselves. We keep consuming that shit. Every time you watch a clip, you're like reliving that trauma again and again. It's like, this is a disaster. This is an emotional disaster.
It's an emotional disaster, and there's also this other piece to it, which is hard to make sense. If you look at something like this, there's a civil war going on in Syria for a number of years now. There's a few million people displaced, hundreds of thousands of Syrians killed, and here's like Harvard campus, like no protest, right? Russia invades Ukraine, small protest is after Hamas attacked Israel. Like this is what it looks like. So there's also this other thing that there's such a seemingly disproportionate amount of attention on it when it happens with this small country. Like 500,000 Syrians died in their civil war. Like, where's the marches? Where's the protests? Where's where's people shouting on college campuses? 3 million people displaced. Where is it? Like, what?
Well,
when Boko Haram, kidnaps hundreds of girls in Nigeria, schoolgirls, like, where's the protest? Where's those people coming out? But when it happens in Israel, when something happens in Israel, it's the response, the global response is so disproportionate that it makes you think something else is going on here. There's
but we've been saying it. I mean, I don't like to sound like a broken record, but we have been saying that for whatever reason. It doesn't matter. You can believe us, or like you can subscribe to our hypothesis, right? Or you could just say, for whatever reason, like Jordan Peterson says, for whatever reason, everybody's looking at you. For whatever reason, there's this double standard whenever Israel is judged. For whatever reason, right? So, we can fight it tooth and nail as we've been trying to do. It doesn't really help.
Like everyone, look at that.
Change something, right?
Israel's the tiny red dot in the middle, surrounded by all these Arab.
Can you zoom in?
Yeah,
yeah, just like there you go.
Okay, so I see it, make it make sense. Like even if we're not pro-Israel anything, just make it make sense. Like, why is so much of the world focused on this tiny group of people and this tiny piece of land?
Is this a rhetorical question, Seth? I mean, no, I don't think anyone has a real good answer. People have ideas, right? And we hear the usual, right? Envy, bigotry, scapegoating, like all kinds of theories, which again sound good in theory, but they're in order for that to really be the case, you'd have to have a fairly consistent indoctrination from generation into generation. And we know that it mostly happens in extreme cases. Like, for example, Hamas in Gaza raises children on these ideals, right? Or puts in their charter, kill all Jews. And so that's where people, their babies are born into that, raised by those standards. The wives of martyrs are happy their husbands die. All of that weird, warped, right, education. But most of the Western world is not like that. And yet people grow up and they they espouse those anti-Jewish sentiments that are really, really strong, right? That make no sense, like you're just saying, irrational attitude towards the Jews. And what we're saying is, why is it? For whatever reason it is the case, but why is it? What does it make us do, right? That's the question. How does
What
it
does it
make
make us do? What do you
Yeah,
mean?
how does it make us react? Like, if the whole world is kind of pointing a finger at you, then at some point you can try to, like, stop pointing the finger, or you can ask, why is everyone looking at us?
Yeah, and
As,
also I
as,
think
as if
a
we're,
lot.
as if they somehow depend on us for something, right? That's why people have this kind of, you have this visceral feeling towards someone when they, right, when you're in a relationship with them, right? If you were indifferent, if they didn't have any influence on you, right, neither positive nor negative, it's like, whatever. I don't care. Someone in Scandinavia invented a new type of sauna. I was like, whatever. But when something happens here in the Middle East, you feel it's affecting you somehow, even if it's not directly affecting you. Somehow you feel invested. That's what we're saying. Almost, by nature, right? People
And
have.
all of these comparisons and who's justified and who has the right to attack, and it's missing the whole real story of why these things are happening and what to do about them.
Right. I mean, it doesn't make sense. It so doesn't make sense. There's this other video. I don't know if we have it, but this guy talking about all the woke guys and the queers and all of them standing up for Hamas, and Hamas would obviously eliminate them the moment they set foot in Gaza, right?
Oh yeah, LGBTQ
Yeah.
stands with yeah, like all the people that are protesting for Hamas, they should go to Gaza and see what life is
No, poor
like.
guys. They shouldn't go to Gaza. I don't. I don't recommend they go to Gaza, but I do recommend that we ask ourselves, what is Israel doing wrong? And I'm not saying it in the sense of, obviously, some terrible pogrom happened, and now Israel is going to respond forcefully, rightfully, as it should, as it had to respond many years ago. I will be the first to say that, and we'll hear it from a former terrorist. Actually, there's going to be a small recording we'll play later. But Israel and the West are not speaking the local language. A lot of people have accused us of that, and we see that constantly. We're trying to bring Western values, Western ideals, Western's approaches, right, to do certain things, and it totally it doesn't land with the locals. It's like you're not
Not speaking
speaking
their
the language.
language.
What's the language? It's a it's
No,
a
you're
it's
not speaking their language.
You're not speaking the language. It's a language of, it's a power play always. When you're dealing with the people in the Middle East, when you make concessions, it shows you're weak. It's not. It doesn't show that you're a better humanist. Human rights. My hand is for peace. That's not how you make any concessions. That's not how you trade. You trade from a power position. You negotiate from a power position. No, Trump actually understood that with some people, with bullies, as he called them. That's the way in the outside world on that scale to deal with him. If a terrorist comes and does something to you in Israel, the only way to deal with them is to come and flatten their entire village. Then the next terrorist that will want to come from that village, the villagers will stop them, because, like, dude, no. But when all you do is you capture them, you put them in the place they call the Hilton. They call it the Hilton, which is a prison that's so much better than they get to study, go to school, have a degree, eat, drink, you name it. Then where's the deterrent? But that's a whole other issue. It's like, I don't want to get into, like, Mid East politics and negotiations. That's a different issue that we've been performing in there. I think what I want to turn our attention to is these revelations, kind of like how you start with these things that make no sense, and I think people are seeing that some of those things make no sense, and also,
It's shocking. I have another video I want to show you here as well.
okay,
Um, it's shocking to see that to see how much support and how quick, like, it's one thing if there's two teams fighting it out, but when we all saw GoPro and live streamed of executions and kidnapping and a woman, a live woman's stomach being cut, a pregnant woman's stomach, we all saw these videos, and then people are out in the streets supporting that. There's some cognitive dissonance. It's something. How is it possible? What also, I think that people must be saying, if Hamas did that to Israel, so Israel must have deserved it somehow. Like, Israel must be so bad.
right.
There must be, like, this is what they, that's the strike for strike. Like, that must be the commensurate punishment for how bad they are.
Meanwhile, 2 days ago there was a fun day at the beach for sick Palestinian kids who are treated in Israel. They took them out to the beach, showed them a good time. I guess that's what you deserve for showing Palestinian kids a good time. There's no justification for it. As someone who lived here through some of the harshest periods, right, before pre-Oslo, post-Oslo, and then I moved, and someone who served in the army, and I was actually stationed in Gaza for a brief period of time because I was too valuable of a soldier at that time. I was training to be a pilot. I didn't graduate, but they wanted to, as part of the training, to take us all kinds of places. So we had a month in a refugee camp in Gaza. You could see that it's a matter of just different attitudes. It's not like two, and we talked about it last show. There's no point beating a dead horse. It's not like two peace-loving cultures who are desperately trying to make peace, and somehow it doesn't work out. You know what I mean? It's like that wasn't the case, and unfortunately, the harsh reality that Palestinians complain against and people in the world protest against is really the result of a lack of a sense of security. So when you don't feel safe next to your neighbor, you start putting up fences and security gates and right, and like special buffer zones and maybe some landmines. I'm exaggerating. I'm saying some landmine, all kinds of instruments that will create safety for you. And when people misconduct themselves in those areas, people get hurt, people die, things happen because there's no security. So there's not even a point of judging what's happening, because it's a result of one group of people trying to defend itself against another. It's not like two groups of people trying to live peacefully and one is taking advantage of the other. It's like, oh yeah, Israel is like selling electricity to Gaza, shame on you. Israel is piping water to Gaza, shame on you. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? It's none of those things. And again, I don't think this talk is not even about that. We're not talking about the double standards or the false narratives and the fake news and the media wars that's been waged against Israel for 2 decades. That's not what it's about. What it is about, what we're talking about in our talks, is the fact that this struggle, this friction, this whatever is global. It affects everyone. That's number one. It can ignite the world in ways that we can't even imagine. We have now American ships here in Israel, right? You have Chinese boats here. Russians are gonna. I'm not saying, but this could easily become an Armageddon type scenario, right? Easily. So no other country, no other people have been the center of such stories, right? Ever.
So there has to be, there's quantity and there's quality. We're talking about a small group of people on a small piece of land, but an absolutely right. China, I saw, is mobilizing now. Russia is mobilizing now. The United States already mobilized. Turkey's mobilized. Syria is mobilized.
Tehran.
The EU is heating up over a small amount of a relatively small amount compared to what happened in Syria, for example, a small amount of deaths. If you take Yemen, the Houthis in Yemen have displaced millions of people.
Yeah, no,
Over
no.
2
The numbers don't add up. In all the years of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, less than 90,000 people have perished in all 50, 60 years. Okay.
Right. So already in the Ukraine-Russian war, it's 200,000. So it's already
Oh
more.
yeah, yeah. It's nothing to do with. Again, it's not a quantitative thing. It's a qualitative thing, I think.
Okay, it's a qualitative thing. So here's something. Can I show you a video of something going on in the U.S. right now? This is in the last week. This
Are you sharing sound as well,
no, I'm not sharing sound. This is in cities around the U.S. in the last week.
Yeah, let it play. Let it play. It's good.
Okay, so I didn't realize that there was. I mean, I wrote a book about it. We've been talking about it for years, that there's Jew hatred underneath the surface. But I didn't know that people who are like neighbors, people, colleagues, would come out and support an organization that's calling for it's not two sides. They're literally calling for the extermination of Jews. I didn't realize in America there were so many people who support that message.
I'll show you. I think, by the way, I think I overstated the numbers of people who actually died in the conflict. I think I said 80 something thousand. I think it's actually 18,000.
This is New York.
I mean, every person is important, obviously, but it's really disproportionate, right? You said people are discovering things. Look at this. Check this out.
I've been shocked at how many people who I previously respected have outed themselves as either know-nothings or anti-Semites since last Saturday. And some of them I considered friends, and I'm really kind of wrestling with what they've done. Like, I guess it's like a seething anti-Semitism that I didn't know was there. I don't know how my Jewish friends are dealing with this. I've heard from so many of my Jewish friends and my Jewish audience members who are like reeling. They're reeling right now because they've had this horrible, horrible thing happen to Israel. And in the wake of it, they have so many in their own country just brushing it off as like, oh yeah, Hamas had to go military. They had to go military, because of the failures of Israeli policy in the Middle East, Eliana. Can you imagine? Imagine yourself an MSNBC watcher, a leftist who consumes news because you're woke and you're like, okay, I mean, some Jewish people might fall into that category. And then you see these reporters who you trusted saying that shit on the air.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. It's irrational. And as she said, it's like it's buried inside people you didn't even know were anti-Semites. And here we are, in our podcast years ago, and even in other things we made before that, we're saying, hey, even in America, you can see another Holocaust like that. And suddenly, boom, you have this huge anti-Jewish sentiment supported on so many levels. And you have all these people you thought were your friends suddenly are not your friends. It sounds familiar? It sounds like 1930s all over again. And my only frustration is that we've been saying it since in the documentary made in 2014. The exact same words people are saying. And yet we keep brushing it off. We keep saying, well, maybe it's not so bad. Maybe society won't let it happen. But look around. This is your society. These people on the street, they're a sizable force. They're a loud minority. They're a demanding minority. They're backed by different kind of forces. And again, this is not a political podcast. All I'm saying is, and we're saying is, this points to something. This anomaly should point us to ask different questions. Why is this happening? Why to us? Why now? Why in this way? But at least ask some questions. What's your feeling? I mean, being
Yeah,
like
I'm thinking about it constantly, and what I'm thinking is that, um, first of all, it's very important that people stop, maybe take out a pen and paper and write what you see, like get your thoughts out, because just to be bombarded by the news all the time, you don't have the time to critically analyze what's going on. If you're writing it out, if you're thinking it through, you understand something doesn't make sense here. Something is disproportionate here. Something is eerily similar here to things we've experienced many times before. And then on the optimistic side, which maybe we don't put enough time into, but which is what you and I are all about, what this whole thing is all about, is that in the same way that this spread like a total wildfire of hatred towards us, that in the same way, if we're doing the right thing together, a wildfire of love, a wildfire of connection should be able to spread over everything in the same speed. Marches across the whole world for love and unity should be able to, in the matter of how many days did you say it was? 15 days? Right? In 15 days, every city across the world, every city across America, they're marching for love and connection.
That's the thing, though. They're not demanding it. They're not demanding it of the Jews. When we last talked, we listed all those countries that painted their monuments with the Israeli flag. What were they saying? Nothing. I'm sorry to say, I'm not belittling support, financial support from America, from Britain, and all that. But they didn't say, "Hey, Jews, unite. We'll give you the power to unite. We demand you unite. You can do it." No, they said, "We stand with Israel. We support Israel." In other words, saying, "Thank God it didn't happen to us."
And we don't want beheadings in our town, so
Yeah,
we're
so
the first line of defense. So
yeah, hopefully you can deal with that and spare the rest of the. Someone made this awesome 3D thing of like this rock falling down a mountain. And it's like you saw that, right? And
Israel basically protecting Europe from the terrorists.
Yeah, which I actually don't believe that because Europe has already been conquered in a way. If you look at those. The same clips you showed, there's like similar clips from Europe, from major European capitals.
Yeah,
but it's not even that. I really think that that's what the world should demand of Israel. I think there's a greater force involved here, a greater force of nature, and we need to reveal it. We need to make it present. It's present when we unite. That's what we say. That's what we show. Every episode, it's time we put it to the test, and now, not a minute too late. I wanna. You want to say something?
No, tell me.
No. I want to play this thing because we want to wrap up, but this video from a former. It's not a video. I'm sorry. It's a clip. It's an audio clip, and I'll translate because it's in Hebrew. It's a former Fatah terrorist. Fatah is the ruling party in the West Bank, and they're supposedly more moderate than Hamas. Although in the days after the attack, just like Megyn Kelly discovered friends who were anti-Semites, we discovered Fatah people who were like, "Yay, great Hamas! I wish we could be as good as you." Right? This kind of stuff. So he was an Arab terrorist from Jenin. When he was 14, he was out committing terror acts and fighting, and then he got arrested. And he spent time in prison, and then he went back. He got out eventually in some one of those exchanges, and he came back to the West Bank, to his hometown, to Jenin, and then to Ramallah, and he was greeted like, "Oh, you're a hero." And then he saw the corruption and what they do with all the money and how they don't care about them. Out of all the Hamas leadership, only one of them is in Gaza. Everybody else is in a hotel in Qatar somewhere.
By the
So
way, everyone should understand. If you don't, Gaza is on the Mediterranean Sea. Gaza could be one of the most beautiful
yeah, guys, it could
towns
be
or places in the whole
could have been
world.
Singapore, could have been Hong Kong, could have been
There's no reason, with the amount of billions of dollars over all these years that went into there, there's no reason that everybody there couldn't have a beautiful home. The beaches could be beautiful. The infrastructure.
many people do, by the way. That's another misconception, right? Many
I've
people
seen some of these videos of incredible houses there and beautiful beaches
Incredible.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't want him to lose the attraction of this guy. Anyway, so he went back and he was like what he saw, he was livid. He was like, "What is that? I don't want anything to do with that." And he basically moved back to Israel. He's like, "Take me," And now he lives in Israel. I don't know if Haifa or Jaffa. He lives somewhere in Israel, and he makes the tours and he speaks out against the heads of the Palestinian Authority and Hamas and all that, and for Israel. But he doesn't just say, "Hey, they're corrupt. Israel is good." He sees it as part of a global move. He brings his religious background into it, like he studied the Quran and everything, and he speaks from that place. But he speaks with such eloquence and conviction that it's really, you hear it, it's like it makes your hair stand a little bit, So I want to play maybe a few minutes from a talk. They had a talk with him. They asked him about speaking the language of terrorists, as we discussed earlier, and he answers. So he'll speak. I'll try to translate as we go. You tell me if it works.
Okay.
Oh, hold on. So okay. People who teach their young kids from 4 years of age it's a song they taught me when I was in kindergarten. We won't stop with the bombs until we destroy the Israelis and return to Haifa and Jaffa. The whole world is theirs, and as if God created them and asked them to kill the Jews. And that's the mistake. In the end, they fell into the pit they dug by themselves. Not Israel will judge them, and no one will judge them. And the sentence of the Creator from heaven will come to them. Anyone doing these kind of atrocities, and they will receive this sentence. And there's a precedent for that. In all the holy books, anyone who's committing these crimes, and they from the direct path to the Creator, will be forced to stay 40 years in the desert of Sinai. And all the politicians should hear it. And all anyone who wants to be part of it, nothing will help you. Nothing. No solution will work. The Creator decreed for them, just like he decreed for everyone else.
אבל איך מעבירים להם את המסר הזה? אנחנו מדברים
נורווגית, אנחנו פה
כולנו ככה יפים.
יתאספו כל היהודים המאמינים באלוהים, וכל המוסלמים המאמינים באלוהים, המאמינים שהאלוהים הזה שמו השלום. ויתאספו אלינו גם הנוצרים,
and also the Christians, everybody who believes in the Creator will come and will, the camp of light will fight the camp of darkness against those Hamas people, the mercenaries of Iran will fight against the devil's party in Lebanon and against the Iranians, and will fight against anyone to remove the rule of the Creator's rule from this holy land. He goes more into it, right? And he's so convinced. It's like, and again, you don't have to be religious to I understand that some people, you say the word Torah or Bible or Quran or Creator, and they get like hives, right? And it's like, medieval people. But number one, you're dealing with a lot of people who do see life through that lens, so you might as well be familiar with it, because you can't just brush it off. It's there, right? Number one. Number two, it's easy or easier if you, like us, look at it and say, okay, a force in nature. What is this creator? We talk about it all the time. It's like a force in nature. It's a force that's revealed when you're united, and it disappears from your feeling when you're separate. That's what we say about the Jews and the Jewish nation. And he's just reiterating the same message, but from his point where he comes from, right? From the Quran and the true Islam and all that. And he goes on to say the name of the creator in Islam is the merciful one, Rahman, right? It's like there's none of that shit exists there. Even it's all, it's been hijacked and been used in this war. But at the end of the day, when you look at it, the situation, right, when everybody kind of converges on Israel, when in Ezekiel they say, and the Persians will come and these will come, that's the Armageddon. It's like, well, okay, all right, I don't believe these things, but there's a lot of evidence to support some of these theories. So maybe we should, take it as another perspective, because you know how it is. If enough people believe it, it's like maybe it's what's happening. So I don't know, Seth. I don't know if these talks help anyone. They help you and me, just connect over those things and kind of go back to what's important. But I think I don't want to bring people down, but my brother-in-law was here just before this talk, and he started to ask me, how are you securing this room? Because this is the bomb shelter, right? And the bombs are not the rockets are not that dangerous right now. There aren't that many of them also, but it's that fear, right? That they're going to start invading towns in the center of Israel and go door to door like they did in those kibbutzes and exterminate people. And like, okay, what do you do? Okay, so you got to lock this. There's no lock, so you buy this special 2x4 with a hole to put on the handle when you lock it, and maybe you get a gun permit, and maybe and you realize that this is a bottomless pit. I mean, if this is going to be like some all-out war, and the army fails to such a degree that they're like thousands of terrorists running it, I was like, we're done. It's like it doesn't even matter. So you ask, where's your one thing that you can control? What can you really control? People say oust this prime minister and do this and do that, but what can you do? What do you do? What do you bring to this world? And I think, I hope, actually I believe, I feel like it's truly there, that if you try to bring what we're talking about, you actually do make a difference. Because these things do work. They do make a difference. Forget about the studies and everything else. It's that feeling. I feel it.
Yeah, I'm so much trying not to use the word pray, because I'm trying to find a word that's totally acceptable to any audience. So
isn't it wishful thinking in Western?
Whatever it's called, but that our job, that as we painstakingly went over through all of these episodes, our job is to add connection and love into the network, constantly obsessing over every tragedy and how to kill people. If it's your job, you're 9 to 5, so do it.
Right.
If it's not, and you have some brain power left over and some emotion, invest in uniting these people. Yichud, Yehudi, unite.
Yeah. Add some light.
Connect, add light into the system. And
you can't take out the darkness. You might as well add some light.
Yeah, basically all of these terrible things we see is all of the places that the light didn't enter. Every place that's left vacant, we will be shown every place that's vacant of light. And our job is to fill it with the good connection, with the light, with the love, consciously. We before it has to reveal anymore.
I like it. Seth, thank you.
Be safe.
I love connecting with you. So this has been great. I hope we do this again, and that we find our function, true function, our true place in the system. We're the true function. Like, share, comment, subscribe, everything. Spread this idea of light. We need it desperately.